Today, we're learning one of the most important sounds in English. And if you're having trouble finding this sound, I'm going to give you 3 different ways that you can use to help find it in your mouth. It's time for the schwa. Hi, I'm Josh, your American English guide, and this is English Hacks, where you can learn to think like a native and learn English better. The schwa sound is very interesting, and it's the only vowel sound that actually has its own little name. Now, here on the vowel chart, we actually have 2 symbols for this sound, and let's get that out of the way first. The schwa sound is the upside down E letter. Next to that is an upside down V letter. Now, specifically, only the upside down E is actually the schwa. However, the other sound is the same sound, at least in English. The only real difference between them isn't in the sound, it's in the stress. The schwa is never stressed. However, because both of these symbols in English represent the same sound, I refer to any word that uses either of these symbols as the schwa. But it doesn't matter because it's the same sound. We want to focus on training our ear to hear the stress, and if a word uses one of these 2 symbols, if it's stressed, then it will be louder and longer. If it's not stressed, it will be shorter and quieter. That's the main thing that we want to focus on here. Okay, now that that is out of the way, how do we make this sound? So, as we see on the chart, this sound is in the middle of the mouth going from front to back. So you're going to use the middle of your tongue and in here. And we also see that top to bottom, it's in the middle section. So we don't want the mouth to be really open like ah or ah, and we don't want the mouth to be really closed like e or oo. What we want to do is open the mouth part way, very similar to the position for eh, that third vowel sound in the front of the mouth. Now, there are different ways that you can approach trying to find this sound. Many English teachers simply tell you to relax your tongue and you're done. But for a native English speaker, yes, the tongue does feel pretty relaxed. In my classes with my students, I've noticed that when I tell them that, many of them can't produce the proper sound. So I'm going to give you a number of different ways that you can try to make this sound. So the sound we are trying to make is uh. Now, the first way that you can try to make this sound is by just relaxing your tongue. Make sure the sound is in the middle. Don't let it come forward. We want it to be in here. But if you just relax your tongue, that does work for some English learners. The next method that you can try if you're not making the proper sound is you can do what I call the bowl. So you want to try to make your tongue kind of like this. My hand isn't perfect, but the front of your tongue would be up a little bit, the back of your tongue would be up a little bit, and you're kind of trying to push down here in the middle. This, I think, really depends on your native language, because maybe for you, being relaxed means that your tongue is sort of more up here and it's not open enough. So you can either try to make the bowl, or you can maybe try to open your mouth a little bit more, or use both and see if that works. The third way that you can try to find the sound is actually to start with the eh sound, the third vowel sound in the front. So we know e, eh, and if you'll remember in the 1, 2, 3, 4 comparison, we talked about the method where you anchor your tongue to the inside of your teeth and you kind of just bring it down for each sound. E, ah. So you can find your with that, make sure your tongue is touching. And from there, you should be able to very easily feel that the sound is up here in the front. Now, if you just pull back, just pull off of the teeth and back. You're not necessarily trying to move your whole tongue back. You don't want to in the back and choke yourself, right? But you do want to sort of just lift off, and you're kind of trying to shift the sound from here in the front to here in the middle. So you're kind of doing like this, but you'll also probably feel a little pull. If none of those work, then you just have to play with it like we've talked about before, and eventually you will find it. Sometimes the sound can take a while to find. The next thing we want to mention really quick is a very big common mistake that many English learners make when trying to find this sound. I've had many students who will either open their mouth too much, so their tongue is kind of more like this, or even if their mouth isn't open too much, their tongue inside kind of comes down too much, like they're pushing down on the front. And this gets us a lot closer to the ah sound that is in many other languages as the A. And we don't want to do that. So be very careful that when you try to make the schwa, it doesn't start to slide forward, because that's a very common thing that happens with many of my students. Make sure you get it up here in the middle. Okay, that's why the bowl shape can kind of help there. Next, let's move on to some example words and common spelling patterns. One of the most common ways to spell the schwa sound is with the letter U. Now, of course, this letter can represent other sounds, such as the U sound. So, unlike the front vowels, when we start talking about these other vowel sounds, the spelling patterns become a little less reliable. Let's look at some examples that use the letter U. But, cut, duck, luck, run, fun, up, and cup. Another spelling pattern that is also kind of common is with the letter O, done, one, money, first syllable, month, some, come, from, love, and of course, the preposition of, which is very commonly mispronounced. It's spelled with the letter O and the letter F, but there's no O, there's no F. It's a schwa sound plus a V sound. Now, the bad news, any vowel letter, A, E, I, O, U, can represent the schwa sound. I know. It's okay. Again, this is why we want to train your ear and not rely on the spelling patterns. Now, there is one more important detail about the schwa, which we'll talk about in the next video right here. Don't forget that you can follow the link in the description below for the homework and extra practice. And if you want to learn how to think like a native and continue training your ear, consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.